Good evening. Welcome to the Town Board meeting for Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. Just some housekeeping. If you are here for the last item on the agenda, Eastview Apartment Development, that has been adjourned. If you are an applicant, we remind you to please keep your presentations to 30 minutes or less. If you're a member of the community, there are yellow cards on the table when you come in. Please fill one out, and anything that's designated as a public hearing will let you speak for up to 3 minutes. That being said, can we stand for the pledge? Thank you. First item on the agenda, planning board application public hearing, Fire Island Summer Club condominium, care of Michael Cunningham, President, PB 2024-006, north side of Central Roadway, approximately 100 feet west of Sloop Walk, Summer Club condo, Fire Island 1 Central Roadway. Applicant requests a planning board special permit for a private club mooring wharf in the Residence BAA district pursuant to 68-137A. Site plan modifications may be requested as part of the application. Good evening. We can hear you fine. I just want to make sure those watching at home can hear you. There we go.
Thank you. So again, what we've submitted to you as part of our application is an aerial photograph. You'll note that Summer Club is circled in yellow. That's the far easterly point. And then you'll note, as is common in Fire Island, there are several docks for both other communities and municipal docks in the immediate vicinity. We have photographs that are showing closer locations as well as some pictures of the docks that currently exist. So again, docks are not uncommon on Fire Island. They're not uncommon at this location. We are dealing with the Fire Island National Seashore for permits as well. This application has also been before the town attorney's office for a license to use the property. We're engaging with the town attorney's office to have that property appraised so that the lease for the use of the dock is going to be inuring to the benefit of the town. So I think everything is in keeping with the character of the community. Obviously, this is a site plan. And before I bring Mr. Bowman up, I do have the signed application to consent to the covenants that were sent to us. My clients have signed that. These are the conditions that the planning board staff had recommended that we execute, and we've gone over them with our clients, and they are perfectly amenable to them. So I can submit that as well. Unless you have any questions for me, I'd like to bring Mr. Bowman up to discuss a little bit more of the environmental benefits of having this dock proposal. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Will Bowman, a principal and senior scientist at Land Use Ecological Services, 570 Expressway Drive, South Medford, New York, 11763. Thank you, John. John lead it off by kind of telling us some of the situation, current conditions at Fire Island Summer Club. I should mention that the residents within the 46 member condominium association currently dock their boats in a mooring field, approximately 1 acre in size, located just north of a about 215 foot reach of beach owned by the community association. And the moorings the boat moorings are placed seasonally offshore in close proximity to an about 1 acre area of submerged aquatic vegetation or eelgrass. So currently boats are to access the Fire Island Summer Club. Residents can either come up to use a mooring and then ferry via small dinghy passengers or supplies to the boat, to the beach, or they can take the ferry to Ocean Beach and then travel the approximately half mile from Ocean Beach to Fire Island Summer Club. Both of those can be difficult with groceries and luggage and small children or older residents. As I said, during the summer season, anywhere between 50 and 40 boats may moor offshore. As John mentioned, the proposed dock will provide 24 slips located seaward, more offshore of the eelgrass beds, and that would accommodate those 24 slips, about 60% of the Summer Club residents. We've submitted site plans, but just a brief description of the dimensions of the dock. The dock consists of a 480-foot long fixed timber catwalk extending north seaward out from the Summer Club beach with open grate decking and a wave break on the west side. That dock, first part of the dock is oriented north-south. The dock then proceeds off into a northeast direction for a 188-foot section. Again, 8 feet wide. Again, timber fixed catwalk with open grate decking and a wave break. And then there's a short return at the northeast end where the dock proceeds 30 feet back to the southeast. That section is 6 feet wide, again with open grate decking. So it's kind of like an inverted backwards J, as you can see on the site plans. There will be 12 16-foot by 2-foot long finger piers proposed on the south and east sides of the catwalks. All the 24 slips will be oriented on the east side of the facility. The dock will require 24 tie-off piles and 118 support piles for the fixed catwalk. Those piles will be 12 inches in diameter with a penetration depth of about 15 feet. Wave breaks are to be installed along the west and north side of the timber catwalk. Those are just 10-inch wide vertical boards, slat boards, kind of affixed to the west and north sides of the dock. They serve to dissipate kind of wave energy so the waves don't kind of roll right underneath the catwalk. Those boards dissipate the wave energy to protect the boats that are docked interior from the wakes from passing ferries or other boats. Safe navigation and protection of the eelgrass beds were some of the fundamental characteristics in the design of this facility, which is also went through review by the NYSDEC and permits issued for the dock. Specifically, the dock provides adequate water depth of 2.5 feet at low water, consistent with NYSDEC standards for all slips, including the most southerly or the most landward of the docks. The dock would shift the location of the boats entirely outside or north and seaward of the eelgrass beds. In order, the part of the length is due to that desire to kind of get the dock slips out of the eelgrass beds. And as I said, consistency with safe navigation was a primary consideration. The exhibit being circulated kind of shows the length and the northern extent of the dock relative to other docks in the area. If one were to draw a line between the nearest community dock to the east, the Ocean Beach Dock, and the nearest community dock to the west, the Atlantique Marina, and draw a line between those two facilities, the seaward extent of the proposed Summer Club dock would still be 97 feet south of, interior, or landward of that pier line. As I mentioned previously, in addition to providing an important benefit for the community residents in terms of ease of getting to Fire Island Summer Club, the proposed dock is a significant environmental improvement over the existing conditions. As I said, the docks will be located outside of the eelgrass bed. The dock will be shifted, will be located 14, 15 feet west of the eelgrass bed in a narrow gap between a larger eelgrass bed to the west. Vessels will be able to have enough room to come around the dock from the northeast and navigate into the slips without traversing into the eelgrass beds. Any water taxis that were to drop off residents at the dock would be able to hook up or join to the northern end of the dock and stay away from the eelgrass beds. As I mentioned, the fixed catwalk will be constructed of open grate decking in conformance with NYS DEC standards that provide at least a 60% void space to allow light to pass through the dock structure and minimize shading impacts to aquatic vegetation or the benthic substrate below. The dock, as you move closer to shore, the dock height will be elevated about 4 feet above grade as you move onto the beach, again, to minimize kind of shading impacts. The wave break design that I mentioned before has some design modifications to ensure it doesn't adversely impact offshore sediment movement along the front of the beach, including making sure that the wave break is situated 1 foot above the sediment substrate, and it has 2-inch gaps between the boards to allow water to pass through freely. In addition, the Summer Club would install signage and/or buoys in coordination with the town of Islip and National Park Service to educate boaters on the presence of the eelgrass beds in the vicinity of the dock and discourage operation and mooring of vessels in or near the eelgrass beds. There will be eelgrass monitoring to evaluate the success of the design elements. Summer Club would work with the National Park Service and their partners to develop an SAV eelgrass monitoring program that would focus on changes in the eelgrass beds proximal to the dock, as well as a control eelgrass bed elsewhere on the North Shore of Fire Island, and would include assessment of both the vehicle moorings within the and use of the dock and eelgrass growth in the vicinity of the dock. Eelgrass beds are a really important ecological community in the Great South Bay. They provide habitat for a wide range of invertebrates and small finfish, which in turn provide forage for larger fish and waterfowl. Eelgrass beds provide an important sediment stabilization component to our nearshore waters. So right now, the situation has adverse impacts to the eelgrass beds in about a 1-acre area due to scour from mooring chains or vessels traversing into too shallow waters. So the environmental benefit of this application is that we take those impacts, which are in about a 1-acre area, and we shrink that potential impact area to a fixed location that's greatly reduced in size to about a 0.3 of an acre, 0.3 of an acre, including both temporary and permanent impacts. Shifts those impacts out of the eelgrass beds, and then, as I described, provides mitigation measures to reduce the magnitude of those impacts that are potentially caused by the catwalk. So in short, both while the dock provides a very important benefit to the community in terms of increased feasibility of access to the community, it also has ecological benefits as well, which is and as a result, we've been able to attain the required NYSDEC permit for this project. With that, I'll ask the board if there are any questions that John or I can address.
We'll go to the staff report and then we'll come back for questions if you're done. Anything further?
Just one final point, as the board is aware, we're also seeking, we have a DEC approval. We have to go through Army Corps, FINS, National Seashore. So we're going through all the necessary permitting processes along with this approval process. And again, we feel that we have made this to be a much more beneficial environmental impact because of what we're doing here. So obviously we'll answer any questions as the board sees fit.
Thank you. I have no cards. Anybody wants to speak? So I'll turn to Ms. Wozniak for a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject property is located in Sunbrook Club Condo on Fire Island, and it's improved with a two-story clubhouse originally constructed in the early 1900s. The property is owned by the Sunbrook Club Condominium, which is comprised of approximately 50 properties located on Sloop Walk and Schooner Walk. Tonight, the applicant's looking to construct a 700-foot-long fixed dock with 24 mooring spaces, which will be located on town-owned underwater land. The applicant has already obtained a New York State DEC permit for the work and has been advised that protected eelgrass that lies off the coast of the property. The length of the proposed dock is required in order to reach New York State DEC's recommended water depth for safe navigation and to be located outside of the large sab beds. This length and location minimizes disturbance to the existing eelgrass beds, which cannot be dredged. The Summer Club condominium will own and maintain the community dock, and slips will only be available to Summer Club residences and long-term rental tenants. Finger piers and tie-off piles will provide slips for about half of the Summer Club residents, and construction will take between 2 and 4 months. In addition to the state DEC approval, the applicant will also require a town wetlands permit, as well as Fire Island National Seashore and Army Corps of Engineers approvals. Based on this, planning recommends the board grant the application, subject to the attached conditions, which requires the applicant to obtain all necessary approvals from every involved agency, and for the applicant to obtain a license or lease agreement with the town in order to use the underwater land, all prior to construction.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right now, you're looking to put in 24 slips. How many moorings are you replacing that are out there now in the mooring field?
There are 35. Some are used for guests, and so they're there. You can moor. We have a mooring field, so the amount of docks, what Summer Club has indicated to us is that their boating community only needs 24. They're not all boating people, if you will. They don't all have boats in the
Do
community.
you feel 24 is sufficient?
Yes, yes,
All right, and the mooring fields will be no more.
that's correct. We will abandon the mooring field.
All right, and I believe there's no ferry service allowed?
That is correct. You have to take the ferry to Ocean Beach and then walk.
All right. Are there any navigation lights or anything that could be required on the end of this dock because of the distance it sticks out?
I leave that to the town's harbor master. If it is required, then obviously we will be all about safety. And if that is a necessary requirement, by all means, we will do that.
The same thing, will there be any buoys leading up to the dock?
No, it's a self-contained dock. It'll just have, I assume, a light so you can see it, and then maybe some directional lights. But no, there's not going to be anything coming from this. Nothing will project seaward of the dock.
All right, and the west side, across from where the finger piers are, there'll be no docking along there whatsoever?
No, these are all designated boat slips. So and there'll be a small area where you can tie up to exit. I mean, the water taxi may show up to drop people off, of course, but we are limiting this to a 24 slip.
Right, but there'll be no day boaters tying up on the west side of the dock all the way along?
No, that's part of one of the requirements here is that we are not going to have, it's going to be private, but to the extent the public will, it's a private community, so we're not going to encourage public access, but there may be, a boater or two may tie up to visit. I'm sure there'll be visitors and guests, yes.
Thank you.
Further questions from the board? Ms. Frugieri?
When do you anticipate construction would begin, considering,
Yeah, that's the,
assuming that this gets approved tonight?
right. Then we need to finish up with all the other agencies. We're currently dealing with Fins and National Seashore. So that process takes a little bit longer, and we will not be able to construct until after that process is complete. I hope it to be within a year, but we've been looking at this for 2 years already, so.
Sometimes I think there's windows that you're allowed to construct docks and do that type of.
That is correct. The DEC, we have when you can disturb the ground because of the activity of the fish and whatever's underneath it. Correct. We will adhere to whenever those parameters are for timeframes.
Okay. Mr. Matamore?
Thank you. One of the concerns I have, and we've touched on it, but I just want to underscore it. There are two in your diagram, Dock 3 and Dock 4, that are east of Atlantique and west of the Summer Club. And as many of us know, a lot of those types of communities are serviced by the Bay Taxi owned by the ferry company. They're not big ferries, that's true, but they're mostly shallow draft boats. So they don't have to go, the ferries that are going to go down to access Ocean Beach or even coming out of Atlantique would be far enough offshore that I don't think they're an issue. But I'm concerned, I'm just concerned about it, that the question of, I think it's 800 feet out is a long ways out. And people with outboard engines are well aware that they don't have to go half a mile or a mile offshore. They can go 300 yards offshore. Well, that just raises the concern for me that the question of the lighting and to avoid any kind of possibility. And it does get foggy at 4 o'clock in the morning. So the weather sometimes is not conducive, that the question of its visibility close by is significant. And I'm just mentioning that to all of us, that that's a concern that I would think you and your group would want to obviously address. And I would think discussions with Tim Mooney, who owns that Bay Taxi company, might be someone that either we or you would consult just to make sure that he's on board with what you're proposing as far as the ability to make sure that that can be seen by the Bay Taxis going east and west. When I saw those two docks, Dock 3 and Docks 4, which are east of Atlantique but west of the Summer Club, that sort of put in mind, it's like anything else, they want to save gas. They don't want to go a mile and a half offshore. So it might be possibly an attractive problem that should at least be thought about and addressed. And I agree with you, if the dock master from the town of Islip can rule on the lighting and that issue, that would solve my concern.
Yes, we're very willing to work. We want this to be safe for all, of
Thank you.
course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have, going back to Mr. Brown's question, I'm otherwise okay with the application. Besides the 24 docks that you said possibly a water taxi dropping someone off or guests being dropped off, will that side of the dock be used for people to stay during the day and dock their boats there, or no? Or is that going to be expressly prohibited? It's just a drop off?
It is a drop off. This is
Drop
a
off only.
community dock that's going to serve the private community. This is not, it's not going to be akin to a public docking facility. It is a private dock.
Okay, but in addition to the 24, I mean, you're saying you think 24 is sufficient. If it requires 5 more or 6 more to get to 30, are you going to allow people to dock on the other side for the day or overnight, or whatever the case may be, if they are members of that private community? That's sort of the question I'm getting to.
Yes, understood. And because this is a condominium association, this falls under it's almost akin to a private parking garage. And this is their documents indicate that only community members that have purchased the right to park, to dock their boats will be allowed. They're not going to have this become, you're not going to have an excess. At this point in the time, the community does not have or feels the need to exceed the 24. 24 is what they consider adequate for their needs at this current time.
Don't know if that answered my
Oh,
question.
well, I'm
but-
trying to answer it differently. I guess the point is, this is not going to be servicing or having day trippers park their boat there and stay for the day. This is really a parking garage for your boat at the condominium association. This is really private community. You cannot access it by members of the public, so it will be privately maintained.
So to sort of summarize that, outside of the 24 slips that we're possibly going to approve this evening,
Yes,
there will be no other rental or long-term use.
that is correct. It
Which
is,
would be more than a drop-off on the opposite side of the dock.
that is
Will not be
correct.
boats tied off there throughout the day or overnight or anything along those lines. So 24 is the number besides a drop-off on the other side.
That is correct.
Mr. Wilson and then Mr. Ruggieri.
Just one question. So how does it get policed? Is it just signage? Do you have like a little dock master there? Like how's that gonna work?
Well, there will be signage as mentioned that this is a private dock, as this was commonly known, so you can't park there. And there will be, I mean, there is a small community, they will notice anyone entering, you can't really get there anyway else. We won't have our own harbor master, but it's private property and we'll enforce our private property rights, yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Ruggieri?
Yeah, just to add that, as far as enforcement, I mean, there should be signage. Is there a rail that goes around the outside? That would also deter people. I know at Atlantique, there's a rail that goes around the outside. It also serves to protect pedestrians walking up and down the boardwalk. Yeah. Because my other point is, as far as enforcement, I think the Great South Bay will enforce it. Because it's not a great place to tie up a boat for any length of time. I mean, unless you have a ton of bumpers out, I mean, your boat's going to get beat up by the wave action.
Yes, absolutely. And then I think many of the comments received from the board are kind of covered in the planning board special permit conditions that the Summer Club has stipulated to. So again, let's see, the maximum number of boat slips shall be limited to 24 and shall be used for non-commercial pleasure craft only. Rental of slips or the facility for uses other than private club mooring wharf shall be prohibited. The mooring of any watercraft, boat, or vessel in any other spot than the designated boat slip areas shall be expressly prohibited. And then also, it should be noted that the dock slips are only for the use of Summer Club residents, not for long-term leases. If a Summer Club resident that had a boat slip did not want to use it, they could only lease it out to other Summer Club residents. So it's in there would be no public or non-ownership use of the proposed dock. And kind of getting to your comments, sir, about the navigation. If there are any, let's see, we've stipulated to the use shall cause not cause any hazard to navigation subject to the approval and continued satisfaction of the Division of Harbor Police. So if the Harbor Police or Harbor Patrol would like a certain set of or frequency of navigational lights along the dock, then they'll get that. That's usually not the always shown on all dock plans. Usually just some notes that we have to do it to the satisfaction of whatever building department or harbor master is applicable. The railings, you should see railings on the cross sections in the site plans. That's pretty standard to have railings on the outside side of these catwalks.
I missed the answer to the question before. Is there going to be a dock master?
No, there would not be a different dock master. I guess I was referring to there would not be a standalone dock master for Summer Club.
Any further questions from the board? Ms. Cruz?
Is there a time when you dock your boats, or is that just, depending on when the residents come and go? It's not really restricted in time, I'm assuming?
No.
And the drop-off section as well? It's just whenever somebody needs to be dropped off?
Yes.
It's also no time? Okay.
Anything further from the applicant?
None for me.
That concludes our presentation. We appreciate your time on this, and hope you find it in our favor.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I had a question. Did you see the CNRs that we had drawn up and you signed them?
Yes, we did.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chairman, based on the staff recommendation, I would make a motion to grant the application tonight.
Motion by Mr. Brown to close the public hearing and grant the application accepted as the CNR. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Frugiero. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The application is granted.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Item 2 on the agenda, Planning Board application public hearing. We are Mighty Fine Inc., PB 2024-011, southeast corner of 3rd Avenue, Mechanicsville Road, Bay Shore, 9 3rd Avenue. Applicant requests a Planning Board special permit for a minor restaurant in the business district pursuant to 68-257.1A. Site plan modifications are also requested as part of the application. Good evening.
David, please start. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. This is my first time doing something like this, but I'll do my best. I am Daria Lamb. My husband is David Lamb. We recently purchased 9 3rd Avenue in Bay Shore, and we are here requesting a use permit. And I previously owned a restaurant and a bakery about 15 years ago. I owned the restaurant for 8 years, the bakery for about 5. My husband is a registered New York State landscape architect, and together that makes us a pretty good team, I think. So we are proposing on this building that is a block off of Main Street to convert it into a daytime coffee shop bakery, where we would be making excellent pie, scones, serving coffee. We will be applying for a New York State beer and wine license. We'll be serving light sandwiches, maybe a salad, as well as offering pies and pot pies to go, and also hopefully for delivery to Fire Island in the season. Our intention is to not be open in the evenings, for it to be a daytime business. Maybe, well, anyway, daytime business, maybe 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And we have requested it to use the space as a minor restaurant with 10 indoor seats and 6 outdoor seats. What else should I be telling you? So on the site plan, we are proposing to abandon an existing driveway, convert the majority of that into the outdoor cafe space, to also add an additional door on the north face of the building to increase the access from the front of the building out to that outdoor cafe space. It will also increase our accessibility to Shorewood residents because they're on that side of our building. And our vision is that local residents, even local workers, will be regularly stopping in to our business. And let's see, I'm trying to think of what else in there. That we had gotten some feedback that on the site plan that you have in front of you, the garbage cans were not called out. And hose bibs, we've added them tonight to this board. We didn't feel we had enough time to turn around and get you all copies of that. But if you look at this bottom, this bottom drawing here, we're proposing to do exactly what our neighbor Goldie's Gems does, which is 96-gallon toters from, one of the major carting companies. They come virtually every day to Bay Shore. And so we're proposing that, and they would be located behind a stockade fence, out of sight line of the people at the outdoor cafe. And then also, I don't know, because this building is a flip, it was just sold in November, and so the person we purchased it from does not know much about the building. So much so that they did not know how to open up the roll-up gates, which we did yesterday for the first time. It took a lot of effort. My impression is it's been years that the roll-up gates have been down, and it has been looking like an industrial property, but I brought you all a photograph. What it would look like. The business would be called Mighty Fine. It would be open 7 days a week. It would be local employees. What else should I, anything else? And then I just brought over here. This is not easy to see, but this is our current logo, if anybody. And having a landscape architect on the team means a lot of thought will be given into the plantings, into the street trees, into maintaining the green spaces around the building. It is certainly our intention to move the building away from looking like an industrial space into something much more welcoming and an extension of downtown and a nice connector to the new residential communities. So that is certainly our intention. There were two things in the recommendations of the conditions and restrictions that we would like to discuss, but I'm open to other questions first before we bring up the topics that we had.
Why don't we go to staff report, then we'll come back and talk questions. Does anybody wish to be heard on this? I don't have any cards, not seeing anyone. I'm going to turn to Ms. Wozniak to give us a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is located on the southeast corner of 3rd Avenue, Mechanicsville Road in Bay Shore, and it's improved with the one-story, 1,600 square foot building, originally constructed in the 1930s. Tonight, the applicant is looking to convert the building into a minor restaurant with 10 indoor seats and 6 outdoor seats. The restaurant will sell coffee, baked goods, and sandwiches. There is no on-site parking. However, the building is located adjacent to municipal parking located on Mechanicsville Road. The building and the site are generally in good condition. However, the exterior facade could use some improvements. In addition, the outdoor seating area is located within an existing driveway without any vehicular protection. The use itself is compatible with the surrounding area. Therefore, planning would recommend the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions, which requires the applicant to paint the exterior and close the existing curb cut and install street trees in order to better protect the outdoor seating area and provide some landscaping.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I missed the end of that, Kelly, but I'll ask the question is, what my concern was where the curb cut is right now, to delineate that, and I don't know if it's bollards or bigger planters to come across and everything, to really close that off. You know, if you can have people sitting out there, I think that we should make an effort to close that off.
Yeah, we fully agree. And so actually, this is one of the conditions that we wanted to discuss, which was, first of all, for the outdoor cafe space, absolutely increase the curb, close up that driveway. There will be a pergola, again, similar to Goldie's. So there will be a large and substantial structure that makes it visible that there is not an opportunity to drive into that space, and you would have to physically drive up a curve. There would also be large planters that would be several feet high that would serve almost like bollards, very similar to what you often see in New York City. And also a street tree in the extended area of where there is currently a curb cut. We would raise that up and put a street tree. So that would protect the vast majority of that. So, yes. Yes. So right now, there is a curb cut. There'd be a tree well as curb and grass and planting and the curb level. So what used to be an opportunity to drive have several lanes that would also just make it a more pleasant experience. Downtown. What we were proposing though would be 4-foot opening here, the north side away from here to allow hand trucks. Garbage will on top. Would be our request.
Just for yard.
Yeah, so the curb cut that you're proposing to remain would be more like a handicap ramp.
Exactly,
Yeah, and it could serve that
exactly,
purpose.
because those doors on that north side are grade level.
Yeah.
So that would also provide that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say leave that to traffic safety or the town engineer to make that recommendation in terms of whether or not it becomes, whether it be a handicap ramp or people walking out in the middle of the street with no crosswalk there. We don't want to, I understand the need for it for you. I just don't want it to become an unsafe condition where there's a car parked there and then somebody walks out because there's a curb cut and gets hit by a car. So as long as traffic safety or engineering is okay with it,
Okay.
I would have no issue with it, but I would defer to them on that.
And
Brown.
what other plans do you have for the facade of that building?
Yeah, thank you.
'Cause first look, it does need a facelift.
It does need a facelift. The other condition and restriction that was requested was to remove the roll-up gates. And our intention is to close for several weeks in the month of January for vacation. And we are actually attracted to the ability to close, so if you're going to be closed for, several weeks. Also, if a big storm came along or something, although there's not much around to, risk it. So what we are actually requesting, and I know this is a different topic, signage, but we were proposing to do an awning that would actually cover the roll-up gate. It would start at this point here. It would cover all of this sort of odd masonry level and brick level that's been patched together there. And it would hide the roll-up gate. And we would not normally close the roll-up gate, only if the business was going to be closed for more than a week or 10 days would we then close it. So it's definitely our intention not to look like an industrial property. And that, of course, assumes, we just got it open yesterday for the first time. That assumes that it's functional and, stays obviously. And we would also paint it so that it would blend in better with the building. But as I said, it would be covered by an awning, and that's probably how we would address signage.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have you take it down when you just learned how to use it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have. And then we'd probably put some planters around, to improve the planting there, so.
Further questions? Mr. Matamore?
Is there an access?
You can use the mic. Yeah.
Is there an access just to the south of your property that's still utilized by the post office?
Yeah, we do not have access to that. So our building is completely on this side exposed to the parking lot of the post office, and then they have chain link fencing here. So we are completely disconnected
Yeah.
to their property.
And to your knowledge, they use it? They use that access to the back of the post office that's
The
on?
trucks come in that driveway
They do.
between the Goldie's Gems building and our
I was hopeful that maybe there would be something that could be done that way, but probably not.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
the
sat
federal
there
government,
yesterday, in
so-
fact, waiting for the gates to get
Okay,
open.
thank you.
The trucks
That
came
answers
in.
my question.
Further questions from the board? Was there a second condition or?
Well, so the two were to explore, be open to exploring leaving partial curb cut and exploring leaving the gates, the roll-up gates up, as long as they're painted in a similar color to the rest of the building and, hopefully covered by an awning so that they're not as visible, or as well as painting the front of the whole outside of the building, but yeah.
I mean, I would be okay with that, subject to the planning staff making that decision. And then I think either traffic safety or engineering or someone on the curb cut, I'm not opposed to it, but I just don't want to create a condition that may be unsafe if people start using it and walking out in the middle of the street there. So, any further questions? Anything further from the applicant? Is there a motion? Mr. Ruggieri.
I'll make a motion that we close this public hearing and grant the application, subject to the staff covenants and restrictions, with two revisions, the one relating to the awning. We'll leave that up to planning staff to devise a condition to address that. And then the other one was the curb cut, have it approved by traffic safety.
Motion by Mr. Frugieri to close the public hearing and grant the application subject to the covenants and restrictions with two, modifications. One is the awning or roll gates subject to approval by the planning staff, and then the possibly leaving a 4-foot curb cut subject to approval of engineering or traffic safety. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Cruz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. The application is granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 3 on the agenda, Town Board Application Public Hearing, 550 Liberty Plaza LLC, CZ 2023-019, south side of Suffolk Avenue, County Route 50, approximately 390 feet west of First Street, Lukens Avenue, Brentwood, 500 and 550 Suffolk Avenue. Applicant requests a change of zone from Business 1 to Business 3 District, a modification of covenants and restrictions associated with TC 5304, Town Board Special Permit for a fast food restaurant pursuant to 68-302G, and a Planning Board Special Permit for a convenience market pursuant to 68-302.1D. Site plan modifications are required as part of the application. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yulia Viola on behalf of the applicant, Sir Tillman Ballin, 100 Motor Parkway, Hapag, New York, 11788. I'm joined today by Aaron Daniels, the principal of 550 Liberty Plaza LLC, the applicant, George Jacobellis is the architect, and Kian Cody, our traffic engineer. They will also speak when I'm done with my presentation. The subject property is a vacant lot, which is located on the south side of Suffolk Avenue and is approximately 2.6 acres. Immediately to the east of the subject parcel is Taco Bell, situated on lot 11.8, which is also owned by the applicant. Immediately to the west of the subject property is a gas station and another shopping center, and that shopping center is also owned by an affiliated entity of the applicant. As part of the subject application, the applicant proposes to construct a 14,519 square foot shopping center to contain Starbucks with a 20-car drive-through lane and outdoor seating, a convenience market, retail, and office space. The proposed Starbucks is going to be 2,511 square feet. Back in 2022, the applicant received an approval for the construction of a 24,300 square foot two-story building on the subject site, which was proposed to include a 5,000 square foot restaurant on the first floor, 11,400 square foot retail space, and office space on the first floor. The principal of 550 Liberty Plaza LLC, together with marketing and brokerage firms, spent few years marketing that building without any success. Following extensive marketing efforts and engagement with potential tenants, both large and small, it has become evident that there is a strong preference for the building to be set back from the street with parking facilities located in the front. As a result of those efforts, we were forced to modify the site plan and reposition the building on the property. As such, we submitted a new application for this parcel. We have also submitted a letter from Katz and Associates demonstrating the efforts that were taken to market the previously approved two-story building and find tenants for it. Aaron Daniels will also speak regarding those efforts. As part of this application, the applicant requests a planning board special permit for a convenience market, a planning board special permit for outside seating as an accessory use to a fast food restaurant. The applicant also requests a modification of covenants and restrictions associated with the proposed site plan and relaxation for the front yard landscaping. The applicant is in compliance with the lot requirements for the convenience market and requirements for the outdoor seating as an accessory use for a fast food restaurant. As part of this application, as I previously mentioned, the applicant is seeking a front yard landscaping relaxation. No undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by the granting of this variance, and it is consistent with other variances previously granted by this board. The applicant is not seeking any other variances. We're providing a sufficient landscaping on overall site. 20% is required, and we're providing approximately 28% of landscaping on the site. We're also providing a sufficient number of parking stalls and not seeking any parking variance. Pursuant to the code, 108 parking stalls are required and 112 stalls are provided. 76 stalls are proposed to be constructed and 36 stalls will be lending. We're also providing 3 spaces with the electric vehicle car charging. Access to the subject site will be provided via Suffolk Avenue. This driveway currently exists and provides access exclusively to the Taco Bell, which was recently constructed and currently operating. This driveway is unsignalized and provides a dedicated left turn lane and right turn lane to exit the property. The majority of the site-generated traffic is anticipated to utilize this driveway. We will also provide cross-access agreement to the parcel to the east, containing and operating Taco Bell, and to the west, containing mixed commercial uses. You can also access the proposed shopping center through the parcel to the west, which is owned by a related entity of the principal of the applicant. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I think the principal of the applicant would like to do his short presentation as well. Thank you.
Why don't we do the short presentation and then we'll go to the staff report.
I'm sorry?
You said the principal wants to do a presentation?
Yes.
So why don't we do that, then we'll go to staff.
We have a couple of people. I think Aaron would like to say a couple of things, and then the architect will go over the design of the building, and the traffic engineer will conclude with a couple of remarks as well regarding the site.
Good evening. Not so much a presentation. Aaron Daniels. Aaron Daniels from AD Real Estate. It's not so much a presentation, but more just to explain why we had to move the building to the rear, if that was a question that was going to be asked. And the main reason was just that the retailers were confused if the front of the building would be on Suffolk Avenue or if the front of the building would be on the parking lot side. So we got a lot of hard no's. We tried pushing to all the different national tenants, to the mom and pops. It would have been beneficial to build the larger building as we had it approved in 2022. It was 25,000 square foot building that we significantly reduced the size to about 14,500 square feet. So yeah, it's actually been it's been 6 or 7 years of marketing the building. And hopefully we found a couple of good uses, and I hope everyone's happy with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Joe Jacobellis. I'm a senior associate at Mojo Stumer Associates. We're the architect for the project. I'll try to keep this brief, but I think we wanted just to walk you through our concept for the design and how we arrived at this building that we have in front of you here. We are, I think, as a team, pretty excited about the building. We think it really, represents what a new modern retail facility should look like. And if you look at the new developments going around the island that are very successful in Melville and Plainview. Retail is becoming more and more experiential and higher end, and I think there's a demand by most tenants to have these higher end sort of elevated spaces, and that's what we're going for here. I'm gonna attempt to walk with this. We've got a number of renderings here that show the building from various angles. The majority of our design was driven by the composition of the building, which was given to us based on the Starbucks tenant location. So we have a building here. We know we're going to have this anchor tenant on the left side that you see in this image. And that drove a lot of the massing and the form and the architecture of the building. And so what we ended up doing to balance out the form and get a composition that we all thought was appropriate was to mirror that element onto the far side. So we end up with a nicely balanced symmetrical building, which sort of has a tower element on the two sides with this lower slung linear element across the middle. On top of that massing, then what we want to do is apply materiality and architecture and detail to create what we think is a beautiful building. So what we're showing here is a combination of a few different materials, but used very intentionally and very specifically. And I actually have samples I can pass around if anybody wants to see. But we do have the majority of the building, as you see in this picture here, is intended to be clad in a wood look composite plank panel. So the current proposed product is something called LuxiClad. It's a heavy gauge aluminum extruded plank. So it looks just like wood. It's got a beautiful photorealistic finish. It has the kind of variety in color and grain that you see in the image, but it's incredibly durable. It won't rot, stain, decay, or discolor over time. And it's a heavy gauge, so it won't dent or oil can or move through the years. So we like the application of a product like that for its durability, but it brings some natural wood tones and materiality into it. We're contrasting that with the touch of a neutral colored gray brick, which acts sort of as a break point between the larger elements on the two ends of the building and that linear form across the middle. And then to accent some of the storefront areas and the anchor tenant glass areas, we have these smaller elements of aluminum composite panel, which on the two ends create an L form to just create a higher sense of entry on these two end tenants, and which is shown as a horizontal band and an overhang across the center. We're then reusing that same material, the wood look aluminum plank that'll run across the signage, but again, we're modifying it, to make it appropriate for the form. On the two end forms, we're purposely proposing to use this in a vertical fashion. What we think it does is it better highlights, A, the difference between these forms. What we want to do is break up the architecture of this building into smaller pieces. Sorry if you can't see. So what we want to do is really distinguish that there's sort of the A element on the two ends, and then there's the B element in the center. And I would almost even say there's a tertiary element in between here to break that up. And all of that goes into the proportion and composition of the building. So by vertically expressing the wood here and horizontally expressing it here, we think it's just complementing the natural forms of the shape of the building that we're working from. In addition to that, we also like the fact that by running the woodwork vertically here, we can eliminate a majority of the seams. These would be full-length pieces that would run from this band to the parapet. So we're not dealing with running seams or stacked seams. It's all full-height pieces. It's a much cleaner installation. It'll look a lot better. And then across here, where we're running horizontally, any butt seam where the pieces run into each other would be purposeful linear reveals that we would actually input and control. So it's eliminating a lot of the potential unsightliness of these kind of systems where these butt ends meet. Lastly, what we're trying to do here is obviously we want to elevate the signage up so it's visible from the parking lot and from the road. So we're proposing a perforated metal panel which would run across and slightly above the horizontal wood plank. And what that does, again, is I think gives a little bit of depth and materiality to the facade. Also gives our client, the owners, a lot of flexibility in terms of signage changes over the years. We're not worrying about bolting or screwing into this panel and then changing the signs in a couple of years and dealing with those holes. This gives us a very flexible form to put our signage on, and it's a lot better looking than that typical raceway that you see installed on a lot of facades. So I'm happy to pass around the materials if there's any interest in seeing them. I'm also happy to answer any questions or go into more details on any parts of this.
Thank you. Is there one more question? Traffic.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Kian Cody. I am with Robinson and Mueller Engineering. Our office is at 50 Elm Street in Huntington, New York. We were retained by the applicant to prepare a traffic impact study outlining the traffic and parking impacts associated with the proposed project. Traffic impact study was prepared and dated April 2024 and was previously submitted. It has since been reviewed by the planning department and the planning board's consulting engineers, LK McLean. When that submission was made, we were unaware of a couple changes in the plans, and I'd like to address those before I get into the presentation. Those two changes are the change of the number of paid parking stalls on site from 73 to 76, and the reduction in the drive-through queue from 24 vehicles to 20 vehicles. With that said, I'd like to begin my presentation by going over the LK McLean comments and our responses. For the most part, a large number of the comments outlined by LK McLean did not require a response on our end, and we're simply identifying the methodology used or agreeing with conclusions that we came to in our TIS. So I only touched on those that require a detailed response. We first of which outlined the county's jurisdiction over Suffolk Avenue and that any development or proposed modifications on the right-of-way would be subject to their approval. At this time, we're still working towards getting a meeting with the Suffolk County Department of Public Works, and once we get that, we will be able to answer the questions and bring up other items that LK McLean mentioned in their comment letter in greater detail. The next comment was comment 6, which discussed the operation of the intersection of Wicks Road, Fifth Avenue at Suffolk Avenue, and specifically the delays on the southbound left turn in addition to individual movements, of which operated at a LOS of E during the no-bill condition. LKMA went on to state that, while we do not propose any mitigation at this intersection for the Saturday midday, any mitigation that would be required at this intersection would be a large undertaking. Typically, it would require significant widening of the intersection and changes in inquiring property on either side. We have not yet, like I said, gotten the chance to speak with the SCDPW about this, but we do agree that it is something to be brought up in a meeting with them. Comment 8 discussed the accident analysis and specifically focused on the intersection of Wicks Road and Suffolk Avenue and discuss the accident rate at that intersection. This is something else we do need to bring up with Suffolk County DPW, which we are working towards. Comment 10 discussed the parking impacts, which I believe has been assuaged by, I think Mr. Colgan has discussed with the applicant that the 76 paid parking stalls would be adequate for the site, and that comment does not need to be addressed. And comment 11 noted the queuing space at the drive-through, which I just want to touch on because it did change from the TIS from 24 to 20 spaces. However, LKMA did use the terminology that they believe the 24 spaces were more than adequate, and we still do believe that the 20 spaces would adequately address the drive-through queuing. The final comment was regarding bike racks. I believe the applicant and the site engineer have agreed that we can provide a bike rack on site to address that concern. I'd also like to go over very briefly the site circulation access. Access to the site is provided via 3 points. Julia has already gone over the majority of this, but the main driveway is located off of Suffolk Avenue. It has a dedicated northbound left and right turn lanes and a two-way left turn median to allow left turns into the site. The other 2 access points to the site are to the west, and they provide access to property that is owned by the applicant to the west. And then to the east, we have the shared access with Taco Bell, which allows us to access that main driveway. The site itself provides two-way circulation within the north lot with the internal striped pedestrian crossings and viaducts where appropriate. Access on the northern lot is currently provided via 2 points, a more immediate turn located in the northeast of the parking lot, a southern access point with a striped crossing and a stop bar and stop sign. The western parking lot provides two-way circulation with the exception of the access point which connects the southwest lot to the bypass lane. This access point is limited to right turns only as to not conflict with the one-way flow going down in through the bypass lane. The drive-through provides adequate queuing space for 20 vehicles without impacting circulation throughout the site, and the bypass lane, which runs alongside the drive-through, allows vehicles to efficiently circumvent the drive-through lane while also providing space for vehicles to exit the drive-through mid-queue if needed. A loading area is also provided off the bypass lane. It's on the southeast corner of the site, adjacent to the bypass lane. The 10x24 loading zone provides enough space for vehicles to pull to the side, removing themselves from the bypass lane and allowing vehicles to travel beyond it. In addition, we also received some additional comments this morning, which I'd like to quickly address. The first comment pertained to the initial driveway, which provides access to the northern parking lot. This driveway was identified by planning staff, and they have requested the driveway be closed due to safety concerns with vehicle conflicts. We suggest that this be reevaluated and the driveway instead be proposed modifications using signage to formalize that access as a one-way entering right turn access only. We propose the addition of the signage on the eastbound side of the driveway in some effect of a do not enter signage or other signage, formalizing that driveway as a right turn entrance only. This would remove any potential vehicle conflicts with two-way traffic near the right of way and will refine the operation of the internal driveway while still providing a secondary access point for vehicles entering that site from that main driveway. The second comment which needed to be addressed pertains to the newly proposed code section outlining the requirement for the fast food restaurants with drive-throughs and their requirements regarding access. The new code section states access to a fast food use with a drive-through must be provided via either a signal or a dedicated left turn lane. If this cannot be provided, the applicant either needs to request a waiver from the board or a traffic management plan be drafted up to discuss the impact on the drive-through on the site and surrounding area. We are requesting the waiver from the board due to the following reasons. First, while the site does not have a dedicated left turn lane, access is provided to the site via a two-way left turn median, which runs the length of Suffolk Avenue within the vicinity of the site. These lanes allow vehicles on two-way streets to remove themselves from the traffic flow in order to perform left turn movements without impeding any vehicles traveling along Suffolk Avenue. Suffolk Avenue along the site, this two-way left turn median runs for approximately 180 feet to the east, in which then it finally intersects with another driveway on the southern side of the property and Adams Avenue on the north. For all intents and purposes, for left turns, the only vehicles that it'd be conflicting with would be those turning left onto Adams Avenue. As this is a residential road, we'd expect a rather low volume of traffic activity associated with this. So for a 2 or 3 vehicle length along Suffolk Avenue, we'd expect that the left turn would essentially be dedicated instead of being a two-way left turn median. The second reason is the drive-through queue length is 20 vehicles. We believe this is a conservative queue and that the chance the queue of the proposed Starbucks would exceed this is low. 20 vehicle queue exceeds the town requirements by 8 vehicles and was previously noted to more than exceed the expected demand by LKMA when provided, well, this was provided when the queue space was 24 vehicles long. Lastly, a signal warrant analysis was performed for this project and it was deemed that a signal is not warranted at the site driveway in addition to the two-way left turn median, which is present. Essentially, it wouldn't warrant a signal and there's not really space for a dedicated left turn lane. And as such, we can't provide either. And essentially, that's our reasoning why the new code section, which isn't enacted yet, should be waived for this property. I'm happy to answer any further questions, but that concludes my presentation.
I'm going to have to, when we get the staff report, just go with things you're seeking a waiver on to see if in fact we need those waivers. But let's finish your presentation. Is that the end of your presentation? Okay. I have no cards. Nobody wants to speak on this. I'm going to turn to Mr. Colgan for a staff report, then we'll come back on the waiver, and I have one other question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As stated by the applicant, this application proposes a drive-through for a coffee shop and a multi-tenant shopping center on an existing industrial brownfield. The site also joins an existing fast food restaurant to the east. Prior to this, the property was the subject of a change of zone back in 2017. The proposal included the fast food restaurant to the east, a shopping center with the building in close proximity to Suffolk Avenue, and a 100-seat restaurant. The subject proposal would set the shopping center back from Suffolk Avenue, with parking in the front yard, and the proposed drive-through would be behind the shopping center. The prior proposal was supported by staff as that plan provided a pedestrian-oriented layout from Suffolk Avenue with a building presence closer to the road and a considerable amount of front yard landscaping, which improves aesthetics above and beyond the town's requirements. It also remediated a brownfield site, as does this subject application today. The proposed plan diminishes the walkability from the prior plan and will add a significant morning traffic element with the addition of a coffee shop drive-through. A traffic study was submitted and reviewed by the town's traffic consultant. Comments on the study include an increase in the southbound left turn delay at the Wicks Road intersection with Suffolk Avenue, and that this particular intersection experienced a significant high number of crashes. These comments have been referred to Suffolk County Department of Public Works, and the town is awaiting response from that agency. The conceptual site plan meets overall landscaping, but requires a 60% front yard landscaping relaxation which is about approximately 6,700 square feet. This is somewhat mitigated by the fair number of landscape stalls proposed along the frontage of Suffolk Avenue. The immediate right turn into the parking lot for the shopping center could invite additional motorist movements and potential conflicts in close proximity to the site's entrance. The staff recommends that the applicant either close that off or properly address the safety issues. And again, we'd like to review that with the county, and perhaps that could be appropriately addressed with good signage. The town recently adopted new fast food requirements, and the applicant will need to address them or receive waivers from the planning board specifically for the following. They need to provide a shading element for the outside seating area, whether that be through shade trees or some sort of decorative element such as a pergola or some other element that we're open to discussion. They also did not develop a traffic management plan in the event that there are any queuing failures for the proposed Starbucks. The outside seating area should also include heavy-set planters around the seating to protect patrons from accidental vehicular movements on the off chance that a vehicle could jump the curb and possibly approach that space. The proposed building elevations are modern in nature and incorporate appropriate shopping center design with glazing and contextual signage. Consideration could be given to utilizing horizontal siding or incorporating some of the design elements from the Taco Bell to the immediate east. The board will have to weigh the diminished walkability of the site with the applicant's economic viability concerns and the increased traffic impacts to the area. It should be noted that this is a brownfield site, and consideration to waiving some or all the criteria could potentially be justified in light of that specific, nuance to this particular property. So based on that, the staff would recommend that the board reserve decision just to go over these issues and prepare appropriate covenants and restrictions after we review this further with the county.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Brown?
Yeah, well, I have a couple comments, and I know that you're going to get back into the traffic consultant to go through some of the conditions that he brought up. But I think definitely we should wait for Suffolk County's findings on the traffic to see what their findings are with it. Also, I'd like to make a comment on the shopping center. I have no issue whatsoever with moving that all the way back. And I'm particularly pleased with the fact that you have the drive-through in the back of the building along the railroad tracks where none of the cars will be seen from the road. So I think it's a wonderful application for Suffolk Avenue, but I think we have some things that we have to address traffic-wise, everything before we can act on it.
Thank you. Further questions? Ms. Cruz?
I also wanted to say that it is, because I'm very much impressed with how beautiful that is, and that will bring a higher little element of a building to Brentwood, because most buildings are, that come up are very not so nice. But I really do love the design for it. It does give it a fresh new look to Brentwood, in the hopes that whatever tenants you do bringing there, one of my pet peeves is once the stores come in, they just bombard it with so much signage on the doors and glass that it just becomes then just another shopping center in the area. I would like to see more landscaping in the front. I don't know how you can work that in. And the traffic study is important, because that area, the traffic is really, really horrendous. So I'd like to see that report from the traffic study, but I do love the design.
Mr. Frugeri?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Ms. Cruz's statements, because I also like the design. You obviously put an awful lot of thought into it. I don't mind the vertical boards. During your presentation, you answered one of my concerns. This wood look, if that was real wood, would look beautiful today and horrible, 2 years from now. But you addressed that doing the composite that could withstand the UV rays. But since you put so much detail into it, have you put together a signed plan or protocol for the center? Because right now you have these beautiful, blocks, words that just say signage. As you get other tenants, these tenants are going to come in, and there could be substantial variations to that, which will, destroy the look of the site.
We have not prepared any signage packages. No leases except for Starbucks list have been signed. So Starbucks list is about to be signed, but Starbucks has not submitted its own signage package where they go over the clearance bars, the menu boards, the 5-panel menu. So we don't have anything prepared yet, but we'll be mindful of this comment when we're working on the signage, and we'll make sure that we comply to the code to the extent possible. And I do think that based on this look, the signage will be, for the most part, code compliant. But we'll be mindful to make sure that the, desires and wishes of certain tenants are not going to interfere with the overall intent for this look.
Yeah, as you're talking to tenants, if you have a signed package from the onset, they're aware of the signage that you're looking for, and it can make conformity in the center.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Further questions from the board? I just want to go back. I mean, I'll agree. I love the shopping center. He's done a lot of great work with it and design. It is great for Brentwood, I think, as Ms. Cruz said. Whatever can be done for landscaping in the front, I would agree with Mr. Brown's comments in terms of the Suffolk traffic. I'd like to hear from them in terms of the safety in that area, just based on what I know from the area. But going back to the traffic, your consultant mentioned a bunch of waivers. That the only two waivers that I heard from staff was a shade element for seating, outdoor seating, and a traffic management plan if in fact the queuing fails. But you've mentioned other ones beyond that, and I want to be clear as to what the other ones you're talking about, because I don't have those from staff.
Sure. So in connection with the recent amendments of the town code, the applicant respectfully requests a waiver for the Starbucks location as it does not have access to a signal or dedicated left turn lane to access the site. You can still make a left from Suffolk Avenue to enter to the site, but it's not a dedicated left turn lane. And it is impossible for us to have a traffic signal because there is not enough traffic that warrants the traffic signal in that location. And I think this is actually even pointed out in our traffic study. They evaluated the option of the traffic signal. So for that reason, we'll be requesting a waiver of this requirement for the Starbucks location, fast food restaurant location, in light of the new changes to the code. Additionally,
Just on that one, just talking to staff, they believe you meet it and don't need the waiver, but obviously if you do need the waiver, we're willing to entertain it. It's been approved.
yeah, we believe we need a waiver for this.
I'll defer to staff on that. If they say you need it, we'll consider the waiver, which I don't think will be a problem. But if they say you don't need it, then we'll go from there. But okay, what was the other?
The other one was, so with respect to, so I just want to address, so the other waiver was with respect to traffic management plan. So we are providing a 20-car queuing lane, which we believe is an adequate drive-through lane for this shopping center to accommodate the number of cars attempting to use this drive-through lane. And we
I'll
believe
agree
that,
with you on that one.
what's that?
I'll agree with you on that one, so you don't have to keep going on that one. I
Okay,
agree.
all right, so, good. So then with respect to, there was some sort of concern about safety pertaining to the immediate right into the shopping center. We would like to actually propose addition of the signage. So basically, so we can keep this access and install signs right by the turn, which will provide that this is only one way and it's not an exit. And the applicant can also install another sign next to the exit from Taco Bell, which will state that this is a right turn only. And we believe that this will alleviate safety concern that the board has.
I would just say on that, it's not really a waiver. You just need to work with staff. And
Yeah.
if that's in fact what they agree to, we would approve it or not approve it. So it's not really a waiver.
I think we, and with respect to outdoor seating, we have no objection in providing planters and shade trees. We're willing to work with the board, whatever is necessary.
Okay, so I think we're on the same page with
Yes.
waivers. There's one additional one that possibly is needed, which is the turn, which we'll work with planning staff if it's needed. We can address that. I don't think that's a major concern. But Mr. Frugiero, you have a question before I?
Yeah, along that line with the signage to, right turn only and all of that. Motorists, as much as we don't like it, they don't listen to signage. Signage, if you say, no left turn, no right turn, very few people actually listen to that. A more effective means would be to modify the curbing, to sort of have it directional curbing, so that it sort of almost forces people just to be the right turn only. You could still put signs, but I'm just saying.
Definitely, thank you.
Just to answer that, I believe it is currently an angled entry, almost. If you look at it, it looks like it's implied one-way right turn and only it's just missing the signage. It is an angled curb cut already.
So I think this is a great project. I think the issues that we're talking about are not that significant, assuming the county signs off on everything in terms of traffic safety. I do have one question for you. The cross-access agreement to the property to the west, is that the same principal? Same owner of that property?
To the west, yes.
Okay, so
There is a gas station to the west and shopping center to
Shopping
the
center, I'm
west.
talking about,
Shopping
not the
center
gas
is the
station.
same principle.
So here's my question and my concern, that when I look at applications, I look at the past history and the current history of the applicant. In that shopping center, there's a approved billiards hall. I think our code enforcement has been out there and there are open violations because it is in fact not being operated as a billiards hall. It might actually, there's no CO for the current operation in there, and it actually might be an operation that is violation of town code. So my concern is, when I look at this application, as beautiful as that is, I'm going to look at the applicant as well and their history in terms of complying with town code as I make a decision or give my opinion on that. So something that I would like to see addressed prior to you coming back to this board, and I will check with staff on that, is in fact that issue is addressed, that there is not a business operating there without a CO, and there's certainly not a business operating there that's not permitted in that shopping center. You don't have to answer it this evening. I just want to put that on the record.
Yes,
that
we'll
that's the
start
concern and the
working on it
question
tomorrow. Thank you. I appreciate it.
that needs to be addressed.
Do you want to address?
We have sent them already legal notice to the tenant, so we're aware of what's going on. We were not aware of what was going on. Now that we have been made aware of what's going on, we're sending him legal notice, and hopefully he's going to be working with our professionals to apply for his appropriate use or go back to store and leave. But also to that is that, I don't think there's ever been any violations or anything else negative against, us as applicants throughout any of our tenants. So hopefully that has some weight also. Try to abide by everything.
Certainly just work with planning staff on that and code enforcement on that. So that's one question I will have when you come back.
Okay. And landscaping, we love landscaping, so hopefully we're gonna make it look beautiful in the front there. As long as they don't steal the flowers, but we'll see.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board? Anything further from the applicant?
No, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Brown?
I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing and reserve decision tonight.
There's a motion by Mr. Brown to close the public hearing and reserve decision. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Matamore. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions were reserved. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Item 4 on the agenda, site plan modification decision item, Robert Levy, SP 2023-001, southwest intersection of Rab Road Drive and Fell Court, Hop Hog, 300 Rab Road Drive. Applicant requests landscaping and parking relaxations in connection with an addition to an existing warehouse office building. Is the applicant here? Is Tanner here? No. Ms. Koga?
I am present. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This industrially one zone, 4.5 acre site is currently improved with a 55,557 square foot warehouse building built around 1981. The site plan approval for a prior application back in 2019, which related to loading docks and related work in the rear of the building, was subject to obtaining a relaxation from the planning board for landscaping relief or to install the required landscaping prior to a certificate of occupancy. The applicant then applied and was granted by the planning board to maintain 19.19% instead of the minimum required 20% on June 22nd, 2022. The application before the board tonight is for an addition to the north and east side of the building. It's about 8,830 square feet single story with 3,500 square foot mezzanine. along with exterior site improvements. This decreases the overall landscaping from the previously granted 19.19% to 18.05%, and the parking from 222 stalls required to 205 provided, which is about 7.7% relaxation. There are also 6 additional electric vehicle charging station stalls for tenant 1, all in which are not counted towards the total stall count. The narrative provided by the applicant shows a total of 107 required stalls for employee parking based on the tenants that would be occupying the building. As the requests are minor, given the use of the operation, the staff recommends that the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Colgan? Is there a motion? Mr. Rajari. Motion by Mr. Rajari to grant the application. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Matamore. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The application is granted. Next item, Matt Flansburgh at PB 2024-002, Southside North Research Place, approximately 440 feet west of Carlton Avenue, County Route 17, Central Islip, 80 North Research Place. Applicant requests approval of signage in the Planned Development District Retail Service Subdistrict pursuant to 68-324C3A. Good evening to the applicant. If you want to present, you can. If not, I go right to Ms. Wozniak. That works. We'll go to Ms. Wozniak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is located on the south side of North Research Place, approximately 440 feet west of Carlton Avenue, and is the site of the Target retail store and the Central Islip Town Shopping Center. Tonight, the applicant is looking for approval of 8 public interest signs, which denote the curbside pickup parking stalls for customers. There will be 6 drive-up parking signs located at the parking stalls in front of the store entrance. These will be 5 square feet each and 6 feet high. There will also be 2 drive-up solar-powered beacons located at the 2 ends of the drive-up parking stalls, which will be 2.5 square feet in area and 12 feet high. Variances for both area and height will be required from the Zoning Board of Appeals, as public interest signs are limited to 3 square feet and 5 feet in height. The drive-up stalls won't interfere with any of the handicap parking stalls, and it's not going to be visible from the street. So planning recommends the board approve the signage as presented.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Anything further from the applicant or anything at all from the applicant? Is there a motion? Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we grant the application.
Motion by Mr. Brown to grant the application, second by Mr. Wilson. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The application is granted. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.